Okay. Hello and welcome to our our webinar with a group of very worthy European potential European representatives. Some already serving, some hoping to serve for the first time. I went over the list, a wonderful group of people, and I just want to give you a sense of their background. Then each of them will talk for up to 5 minutes, give you some thoughts about their positions, and then we have a few questions. So I'm just going to go over and just introduce all of them, and then you'll hopefully see the little pictures, and people can raise their hand when I identify who you are. Athanasios Alexandridis, a training analyst of the French Psychoanalytic Association and the Hellenic Psychoanalytic Society, a child analyst, a psychiatrist, a child psychiatrist, a PhD in medicine, and a PhD in philosophy. Imagine if he tried to get educated. Former director of training and former vice president of the Hellenic Society. Bernard Cullen, qualified 1997, commuted from his native Belfast to London for seminars weekly for several years, appointed training and supervising analyst in 2011. Served for 6 years on the London editorial board of the International Journal of Psychoanalysis. Bernard has recently been elected president of the Northern Ireland Psychoanalytic Society, which is a provisional, having served as its head of training for 25 years. After studying in Belfast and at the Sorbonne in Paris, the University of Vienna, University of Michigan, he was for many years professor of philosophy at Queen's University, Belfast, and then dean of the Faculty of Humanities. And he has been visiting professor at the Hegel Archive in Bochum, at the Scuola Normale Superiore di Pisa, and Vanderbilt University and Boston College, the University of Michigan, North Florida, and South Carolina. A former vice president of the Belfast and District Trades Union Council through the worst of the civil disorder in the 1980s. Bernard served as a behind-the-scenes political mediator in the years running up to the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland in 1998. Gabriella Giustino. Dr. Giustino is a training and
Giustino, sì.
Sir?
Giustino, sì.
Giustino, sorry, is a training and supervising analyst of the Italian Psychoanalytic Society. She published several papers in the International Journal of Psychoanalysis, where she also serves as a reviewer. 2017 to 21, secretary of the board of the Italian Society. Since 2021, member of the SPI, which is the Italian Society Three-Level Method Research Committee. 21-22, participation in the pilot project Interregional Meeting Societies on Education. 2023 to 25, Euro representative on the IPA board. Eva Grod is a psychologist by profession, a graduate of the University of Warsaw, received psychoanalytic training at the Polish Psychoanalytic Society, 1999 to 2006. She's a training analyst. She's currently the director of training and has been an active member of her association for many years, where she's held various positions on the board or on the training committee. 2000 to 2019, she served 2 terms as president of the Polish Psychoanalytic Society. She was a member of the executive of the European Psychoanalytic Federation, general secretary from 2020 to 2024, and had the opportunity to gain a better understanding of the complexity of the issues concerning the development of psychoanalysis, both in Europe and other regions. Louise Hurd is a clinical psychologist, adult and child training and supervising analyst working in Sydney, Australia. Louisa served in numerous executive positions in the Australian Society, is an executive committee member of the Asia Pacific Psychoanalytic Confederation. She's chair of the National Education Committee of her society, has a keen interest in teaching and training in psychoanalysis. Louise is the founder and the director of the WIN Clinic, a psychoanalytic consultation and referral service operated by the Sydney Institute for Psychoanalysis and funded by the Australian Psychoanalytic Foundation. Bharti Jain. Bharti is a training analyst and currently the secretary and treasurer of the Indian Psychoanalytic Society. Alongside her private practice and extensive teaching, she works with marginalized communities, including LGBTQ individuals, blind students, therapists facing burnout. As vice president of the Asia Pacific Confederation, the emerging fourth region of the IPA, she's committed to fostering inclusivity by bringing the region's rich and diverse perspectives into the global psychoanalytic dialogue. Yael Samuel. Yael has lived and worked in Paris, Brussels, and Israel, where she settled 24 years ago. She became a clinical psychologist in 1983 and started her psychoanalytic training in 1998. She became a member of the Israel Psychoanalytic Society, and she's a training analyst since 2013. She works full-time in her private practice. She teaches and supervises within the Training Institute of the IPS. Based on her experience in many committees within the Israeli Society and on the international level, she was elected as a European representative and has been a member of the board since July 2023. Dace Sortman is a psychiatrist. Dace is a psychiatrist.
Days, not that.
Sorry?
Days.
Dace, okay. Dace Sortman is a psychiatrist, training and supervising analyst of the Norwegian Psychoanalytic Society, a board member of the Norwegian Psychoanalytic Institute, a leader of committees for supervision. She has personal experience with the two training models. She's trained in the Norwegian Psychoanalytic Institute, which is an Eidingen base in Oslo, but her journey started in psychoanalysis while living in Riga as a candidate of the EPI, the Hand-Grown Prakken Institute of Eastern Europe. A shuttle analysis, weekend seminars in Amsterdam Psychoanalytic Institute. Currently a member of the IPA board, link function to the German Psychoanalytic, the DPVAL, the Italian Society, the Indian Psychoanalytic Society, the South African Society, the Hellenic, and the Croatian Psychoanalytic Society. Ellen Sperr, director of the Paris Institute of Psychoanalysis, co-chair of the Applicant Societies Committee of ING, International Journal of Psychoanalysis, editorial board, education section, Revue Française de Psychanalyse, 2009 to 2019. She has initiated an interregional research project reflecting on the transmission of psychoanalysis in the development of new groups. Eastern European, very active in the Eastern European Psychoanalytic Institute, 2015 to 2023. She's taught, supervised, organized the 2019 Paris Summer School. Jasminka Soljajic is a training and supervising analyst at the Psychoanalytic Society of Serbia, previous president of the society, a member of the former executive committee of the EPF as general editor. Over the previous years, she's been engaged in many EPF and IPA tasks. She's a member of the ING Liaison Committee for the Bulgarian Society since 2017, initiator of gatherings of neighboring societies within the biannual conference called Thinking on the Border since 2017, participating in the organization of the EPF Conference for University Students, 2016 to 22. Currently, she's chair of the EPF Archive Committee and the Institutional Matters Forum, with a recently published book Dynamics of Psychoanalytic Institutions. She has many presentations, publications in 7 different languages. Martin Teising. Professor Dr. Teising, training analyst of the German Psychoanalytic Association, the DPVAU, specialist in psychiatry and psychosomatic medicine. 1994 to 2012, professor at the University of Applied Sciences in Frankfurt. 2012 to 2018, president of the International Psychoanalytic University, Berlin. European representative on the IPA board 2015 to 2019, and since 2023. Research interests include the psychodynamics of suicidality, theories of illness, and psychoanalytic conceptual research. An impressive group. By the way, I am Arthur Leonoff. I'm the current chair of International New Groups. And I welcome all of our panelists, and I welcome all of you today to this discussion. So now I'd like to do is to ask each just to speak up to 5 minutes. I'll keep track, ask them to be concise because we have some interesting questions to also to discuss.
Sorry,
So
did you introduce John already?
Yes, you didn't introduce me.
Joan, did I not introduce you?
Sorry.
Did I miss it? Oh, sorry, Joan. I'm so sorry. There you are. I'm so sorry. Okay, one more. Raise your hand. Okay, Joan Thompson, British Psychoanalytic Association trained psychoanalyst, born and raised in Australia, living and working in London for the past 28 years. Joan has 15 years of experience, currently working full-time practice, director of the Margaret Street practice. In her previous role as chair of outreach on the BPA board, she initiated the BPA's introductory lecture series, established the BPA Film Society, hosting regular screenings at the Hampstead Everyman in London. Joan has a particular interest in the application of psychoanalytic thinking to film. She has also founded and edited the BPA Bulletin, enhancing the BPA's communication efforts. She is actively involved in the education of psychotherapists and psychoanalysts and supervises clinicians in both the UK and Australia. I apologize for that.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Athanasios, would you like to address us?
I'm here.
You are mute.
You are mute.
Okay. As I write in my CV, I was trained in Paris by the French Psychoanalytic Association, and I live and work in Athens in the Greek society. So I have the experience of the 2 models, the French model and the Eitigon model. And I think that one of the most important issues that we have to deal now in the IPA, it is the training of our candidates. And I know rather well what's going on in Europe because I have participated for a long time in the working group on specificity. And so I see that there are a lot of varieties between the 2 models. And I think that we have to present our culture, psychoanalytic culture and tradition to the IPA in order to create an interesting forum on the training and the formation of the candidates. That means a training that can include the important coherence, but also respect the diversity which has been produced by the different European societies in their own practice. Speaking fluent French, I think that I could represent the Francophone analysts who, as we all know, are not so present in the IPA activities. And I think the IPA will have a great profit if the French way of thinking could be transmitted and discussed in a larger frame. Concerning Europe, I think that we are losing our position in the academic institutions and the research institutions. And I think that it would be very interesting to develop IPA research projects, but also IPA and societal projects with the health and the social services of our countries, because I think that there is the indoor psychoanalysis, but there is also the outdoors psychoanalysis, which is very important. IPA should take positions, I think, for the big humanitarian problems, actual problems like war, economical crisis, and so on. And we have to give our reflection, our specific reflection to our societies, and to discuss with other human disciplines about what could be good solutions. And maybe the last point that I would like to say is that I have experienced the economical crisis in Greece. I know that there are many countries in North Europe, in East Europe, that they face difficult economical issues. And I think the IPA should take care these societies, especially the candidates, and facilitate their training financially, or proposing different kind of seminars and forums that they can, without paying money, participate. Okay, I think it's okay for the moment, and I will answer also the 3 questions when the time will come.
Good. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Bernard.
Thank you, Arthur. Well, I wish to present myself for election to the board of the IPA at this late stage in my career, principally because by temperament and experience, I've always considered myself an internationalist, which is increasingly important in our world of more and more inward-looking nationalism. As you might have noticed, as my CV summary, I have lived and worked in many different countries in Europe and also in the United States, which I think gives me a good sense of different emphases, different priorities in different cultures. I also bring an interesting variation of training experience, having qualified, as I mentioned, as Arthur mentioned earlier, originally with the British Society, commuting from a relatively remote, the edge of Europe, geographically remote in Northern Ireland, to the metropolis in London, which enabled a handful of us to become analysts, but with the indispensable good fortune to have an in-person personal training analysis in Belfast. And I'll come back to what I see as the essential character of that in a few minutes. Then, having qualified and as well as being a reasonably active member of the British Society and increasingly teaching in that society, for example, then I was part of the leader of a team to develop psychoanalysis as a homegrown training within Northern Ireland, just beginning from very modest beginnings, so that with the help of Arthur's team, for example, the New Groups Committee, we have a very strong sense of how supportive the IPA can be, and especially through the persons of our sponsoring committee. So I bring that side of the IPA experience as well. Just a few years ago, we had 4 practicing analysts. Today, we have 16. We have laid the foundations for a psychoanalytic culture. That's what I would like to see replicated in many parts of the world where it is currently impossible. But I come back to the importance as part of the training experience of that in-person, 2 people engaging in a confined space consistently over several years as an essential part of becoming a psychoanalyst. So against that background, I present myself for election because I share a fundamental concern for an increasing disaffection with the IPA as a worldwide organization by more and more of my colleagues in different parts of Europe wondering aloud, worryingly, has the IPA lost its way? Has it lost contact with these fundamentals of person-to-person emotional engagement, which, in brackets, and there's a wide spectrum of views on this, cannot be replicated satisfactorily by meeting as we are meeting here today. So if elected, I would devote most of my energies to addressing this increasing disaffection. It pains me to hear distinguished senior colleagues asking aloud in groups, what's the IPA for anymore? Is the old IPA we grew up with, is it there anymore? And of course, they're explicitly referring to the revisions to the procedural code agreed in 2024. If elected, I promise that I would respect that there are parts of the world that feel completely conscientiously that they cannot continue to privilege the in-person experience of both the training analysis, however intensively that can be, and the in-person experience of the control cases for their own local, geographic, social reasons.
Thank you.
IPA is an international organization. If I may, a few sentences, please, Arthur.
Yeah, okay.
In order to address that, I will be arguing that the IPA should formally recognize in publication as part of its constitution or whatever the appropriate documentation is, those societies, principally in Europe, but other societies are free to sign up, who explicitly indicate they wish to preserve the in-person, the predominantly in-person training experience that was the norm for most of the world prior to the revisions of 2024. This will require skills of negotiation with respect for all parties. And I like to think that in my own involvement with political negotiations between parties who believed for generations that their differences were irreconcilable, that through engagement and conscientious and respectful negotiation, that those apparently irreconcilables can in fact be reconciled. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Gabriella.
Yes, thank you. I'm Gabriella Giustino. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm training and supervising analyst of the Italian Psychoanalytical Society. I'd like to start by saying something about myself and my passion for psychoanalysis. I live and work in Milan. I have considerable experience with patients in the consulting room, carrying out supervision, research, and teaching. This has been enhanced by my institutional experience as secretary of the Italian Psychoanalytical Society, which is a very big society, and by my frequent participation in the international EPF and IPA scientific meetings, which has also taught me the importance of considering clinical and theoretical differences as a source of enrichment and mutual respect within the psychoanalytic community. During these 2 years on the board, I've learned a great deal. First of all, I have had the opportunity to develop a broad vision of IPA functioning in the world. This has helped me to open my mind towards the international dimension of our discipline and an organization like the IPA, which holds differences together, never eliminating, but respecting them. As Euro representative, it's so important, in my opinion, to develop the ability to negotiate with the various different realities and position ourselves as a third eye in a triangulation that allows us to maintain the high standards of our discipline without ever abandoning our mission of promoting psychoanalysis and keeping it alive in an ever-changing world. My experience of the appointment committee, which is a board committee with the president of IPA plus 2 colleagues from 2 different regions, has provided me to a broad perspective of the activities carried out by the many IPA committees and task forces, as well as the high-level professionals who dedicate energy and skills to them. I seek re-election as a European representative on the IPA board, drawing on 2 main points. I think this is very important to be re-elected because I am aware that it takes a lot of time to understand and learn difficult processes on the board of the IPA. Firstly, I conceive the IPA as a container for psychoanalytic identity and the community of psychoanalysts throughout the world. In my view, psychoanalysts should be able to experience the IPA as a highly qualified common us, an open-minded center of scientific collaboration and protective professional container for all its members. This is a role that only the IPA can carry out, thanks to its inter-regional structure and inclusive and open-minded mentality, of which the board is both author and guarantor. I would like to emphasize the IPA fundamental role in the fields of science too, as a facilitator of exchanges of ideas and of the integration of various theoretical clinical contributions from areas that are also geographically distant. The second point is the importance of considering the world outside. We are living in a complex world and can observe changes in many areas that drastically affect the balance of our sense of certainty and safety in human life and relationships. During this perfect storm of the socio-economic, political, and psychological threat, psychoanalytic thinking has a lot to offer beyond the consulting room in the world outside. Our analytic experience forms our capacity to contribute to wider current debates, such as poverty, migration, race, and gender, which have an important impact on analytic practice. With the experience I have gained, I wish to further contribute to the IPA institutional work. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, Eva.
Yes, my name is Eva Glot. I'm from the Polish Psychoanalytical Society, and I'm very grateful and thank you for this opportunity to share our thoughts and for the invitation. As has been said, I was a member of the EPF executive from 2020 to 2024. And this gave me an opportunity to discuss current controversies about psychoanalysis, not only with the presidents of the European societies, which was crucial for me, but also to discuss this with the IPA authorities, as well as with colleagues from other regions. This period has greatly broadened my knowledge of the complexity of the issues in the different regions, but also gave me the opportunity to understand the European perspective on difficult and continuous issues concerning training procedures and the role of the IPA. I come from Eastern Europe, and I understand very well that sometimes special geopolitical circumstances require unique regulations in the training system in order to allow psychoanalysis to develop in a particular region. Such special conditions were created by IPA in agreement with the EPF at the time for Central and Eastern Europe in the 90s. Which enabled the dynamic development of psychoanalysis in this region. At the same time, I remember how crucial it was to monitor this process by the relevant IPA bodies. This provided us with great support and helped us to overcome our internal crisis. And I am also convinced that thanks to this support, both I and many colleagues from this part of Europe were able to receive a really solid psychoanalytic training. These special circumstances was shuttled and condensed analysis, which was monitoring, and it was really very helpful at the time for us. It enabled us to travel and to have a psychoanalysis in person. So therefore, I think that in discussion about psychoanalytical training now, on the one hand, it is very important to take into account the specifics of the region and to have a mutual dialogue, but at the same time, it is extremely important to maintain the basic common conditions for psychoanalytic training with the support of the IPA. Personally, I am convinced as Freud described, that psychoanalysis is the method that is based on the meeting of two persons in the consulting room, in the psychoanalytic settings. So I am rather for this maintaining this basic, it is, in my opinion, these basic common conditions. In my view, the descriptions of the specific circumstances and conditions for the change of training mode should be monitored by the relevant IPA bodies and treated as exceptions rather than as variation of the procedural code. We are living in the difficult times. under the pressure of populism and easy solutions, so preserving the common ground of psychoanalysis seems to me particularly valuable. So it is what I wanted to say. I would like only to add that I speak also Spanish, so sometimes it could be helpful in discussion with colleagues from other regions, especially from the South America. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, Louise.
Hello, thank you very much, Arthur. It's early Saturday morning in Sydney, but I'm really delighted to be here because I think a vibrant and effective representation and advocacy for Europe within the IPA are all vital to the success and future of our profession. It's tempting to declare any moment as critical or a crossroads, but with external challenges in an uncertain world, combined with the internal challenges that we're confronting as a profession as we navigate change, I think it's fair to say that the decisions the IPA makes in the next year and the decisions we make about the IPA are very important and may echo for decades in our profession. With this background, I wanted to make 3 points. The first is a key issue for the IPA. The second is the broader role of the IPA. And the third is my qualifications to serve on the IPA board. One of the primary issues confronting the IPA board at this time and creating a great deal of concern in Europe is the board's decision to permit training institutes to allow 49% of sessions of personal analysis and training cases to be online as an ordinary variation. This would seem to endorse psychoanalysis as an online practice. Whilst I understand that there may be exceptional circumstances which warrant different approaches, I don't support the new proposals for ordinary training. But whatever the merits of the arguments and whatever the future holds, it also has to be acknowledged, however, that there are different views. And the single most important priority for the IPA is not so much which view should dominate, but rather that we maintain the critical role of the IPA in the coherent leadership and management of a profession which remains unified and committed to the core principles of psychoanalysis. After all, we are an organisation with a history of accommodating many differing approaches. We've weathered crises in the past, and it's important for us to find a way to work together and collaborate moving forward. It is precisely because I do recognise that there are different views that I support the position taken by some of the European presidents to advocate for the creation of a section for societies which adheres strictly, with some carefully examined exceptions which should not be considered normal or ordinary variations to the section, but which adhere strictly to the reference standard prior to Miami. And I agree it would be particularly valuable to hear over time from others who are conducting trainings differently. Turning to the role of the IPA, in fact, I think being clear about our principles while also being open to new experience is critical to our profession. And the IPA has the confronting task of helping us navigate these issues and changes. By providing a forum for constructive discussion and debate, the IPA has a pivotal role in the development, exchange, and integration of ideas across diverse regions. The IPA's interregional structure means it's well placed to ensure the creation of an open, inclusive, and common language across our profession. While such debate should be encouraged, and we should share or strive to be open and accepting of difference, I think we must also protect our core psychoanalytic values and ensure that the psychoanalytic principles of theory and practice are not diluted. I believe the European representatives on the IPA have an important contribution to make to the debate and a special responsibility to ensure that European perspectives are represented in these debates. In regard to my qualifications, my experience, I think, positions me well to serve in this way as a European representative on the IPA board. I have been an active member of the European Visiting Programme and attended and presented at a number of EPF conferences. My involvement with the EVP reflects my interest in working with other societies who wish to work to maintain the standards needed for our future. I'm currently the National Director of Training in Australia, and we have recently unanimously elected to continue working with all local candidates in room. I believe that all aspects of psychoanalytic training should be normatively in room. This includes personal analysis, supervision, and clinical seminars. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and for the chance to serve as a nominee for election to the board. I hope my brief comments provide you with some guidance about the perspectives and experience which I would bring to the role, and I look forward to participating in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Bertie.
Thanks, Arthur. Dear colleagues, it's an honor to be here today as a nominee for the EPF board. Some of you may wonder why a nomination from India to the EPF. Many among you may not even know that Indian Psychoanalytical Society is connected to IPA through EPF, both regionally and administratively. Although Indian Society is one of the oldest societies in the world, officially a part of IPA since 1922, yet, despite this rich legacy, India and much of the Asia-Pacific region is underrepresented in the IPA. With my nomination and hopefully my election, I hope to bridge this gap and bring the voices of our region closer to the heart of IPA. Today, I won't be speaking about my background or governance experiences. You can find that in my statement at the IPA website. I want to talk about something deeply important. I want to talk about diversity. Diversity is difficult. It's very challenging. It unsettles us. It unsettles and challenges our certainties, disturbs our familiar ways of thinking, and pushes us almost into the unknown. And because it can feel so unsettling and even frightening, our natural response is to resist what is unfamiliar and different. These feelings can be insidiously subtle and even unconscious. But as psychoanalysts, we know that growth, both individual and collective, does not come from rigidly holding the familiar, but it needs the courage to engage with the complexity, to be open to the different, the unfamiliar. Isn't that the core of our clinical practice also? We open ourselves, we sit with the discomfort, hold the unknown before the understanding emerges, leading to healing and perhaps transformation. Why can't we bring the same openness to our institutions? Isn't it wiser to pause before we impulsively discard what feels different, unfamiliar, and unknown? Isn't it important to recognize our discomfort, acknowledge our vulnerability, and allow space for reflection? Unless it'll make us very rigid and insecure. And that is exactly what we as psychoanalysts deal with. And we have done it before. During COVID-19 pandemic, when we could not fight the virus with a cure or ignore it, we developed vaccines and learned to coexist with the virus. We survived, not by resisting change, but by embracing it. Yet, the war in Ukraine is a constant reminder of the suffering that follows when the dialogue is stifled and the differences are met with force instead of understanding. I believe in the value of diversity and dialogue. It's only the dialogue that can happen with the other, else it is just a monologue. As Vice President of the Asia Pacific Confederation, the emerging fourth pillar of the IPA, I'm deeply grateful for the generosity and collaboration of colleagues in Europe and elsewhere, for their support for our region's growth and independence. But now it's time to take the next step, to bring our own voices to the table. As you all know, representation matters. We must speak for ourselves, not only spoken about. When we articulate our own challenges and perspective, we create a more authentic, meaningful space for engagement, one shaped by our lived realities, not only external interpretations. My vision for IP is simple, that psychoanalysis not only endures but flourishes across diverse contexts, reflecting the realities of all its members. For this, I ask your vote. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay. Yael.
Yes, good afternoon. Arthur introduced me, and I am from the Israel Psychoanalytic Society, and I was elected on the board, and I am on the board from July 2023. I have the privilege to be on this board, the privilege to collaborate with my colleagues from Europe, from the States, and from South America. And I choose the word to collaborate because to collaborate is not so easy. It is to have the capacity to listen, to respect the other, to think, and to be able to work through thoughts, not to be very rigid and to say, okay, I think that and I will stay in my thoughts, but to work through. And I think that the work of the board, it's a work of working through. And to apropos diversity, of course, to listen to the differences. And I think that it is very important, the capacity to really collaborate. And I really felt that on the board we have the same goal. Even if we are very different, we have the same goal, the development of the psychoanalysis. And I was in many committees in my society, and I was in the IPA in Health committee for 5 years, and I was a co-chair of this committee. And it is, if I am so active, it is because I believe in psychoanalysis. I believe in its values, the methods of treatment, all what the psychoanalysis could bring to our patients, and out of the couch, it will be one of my points also. And I believe in psychoanalysis, and I think that to be active and to be on the board, we have to believe, really believe, and to really have the capacity to collaborate. I will explain to you which work I did. I think that it is important because I want to continue the work I began. We have, as European representatives, each of us, first of all, we are a team of 7 European representatives. And the first step, it is to work together. I was responsible to organize our meetings, but we had meetings every month, and we discussed between us of all the issues of the European members and of the board. It is one thing. The second thing is that I have 6 linked societies. Serbia, Hungary, one of Istanbul Association, one of Paris, Association of Psychoanalysis, Barcelona, and Moscow. And it was a very rich experience to be in contact with them. I knew very well the French Society and the Istanbul Association, but I didn't really know the other societies. And it was a real rich experience to be in contact with them. And I had meetings with them every month, and I was available also to speak with one of them or 2 of them when they wanted to speak with me. And it is, it is a part of the discussion, which will be, but what is a link? What is to be a European representative? It is to be a link between what happens in the board and between the presidents of the societies. And, the IPA is a pyramidal structure. At the end, the presidents have their members, okay, and they speak with their members. And the presidents know what the members think, and they submit to the European representative, and the European representative bring the thoughts and the ideas to the board. It is what it is to be a European representative. And I say that for me it was a rich experience, and I felt, there is a sentence that we say we want the IPA to ensure the belonging of the members, and to ensure the belonging of the members, it is what I think that I did during my mission. I have time.
No,
Yes.
I think that's it. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's good. Yeah, right over. Okay, Dace.
Dear colleagues and dear friends, and I'm very honored to be proposed by the Norwegian Society for election for the second term. And I'm very honored about the trust I had when I was elected first time. And I think I will not speak about my background. You can see it in my first statement. And you heard introduction from Arthur, but I would like to maybe speak more about that time on the board. It has been very transforming time with 2 wars present in Europe constantly, very unexpected group dynamics experienced, and realization how different psychoanalysis can be practiced in a world. Starting first term, I think I was a bit naive, and I was speaking about vision and dream, and I didn't realize that I will become part of very serious process which was started a long time before. And members and boards are changing, but the vision and flow in a way continues, and it's not so easy to change the current. But we tried. Europe representative group actually was very active to postpone the vote, which was expected in December, and it happened in July. And we initiated membership conversations were initiated. But I also think it's so important not just to listen, but also to hear. And I think member voice should count continuously, not only in elections, which we have now. And it's also secure that vision doesn't get isolated in a way in governance, but can be, someone's talking, I get disturbed by microphone somewhere. Someone is talking together with me. No? But yeah, the vision doesn't become isolated and can be transformed by members. And that function, that can be done through link function, and which is this open bridge, and hopefully both ways. And my link societies were already introduced, but it really, I'm very, very grateful for this enormous enriching experience meeting through these society members, and this experience widened my perspective and deepen understanding, and also show the ways I didn't know before, solutions, how to, for example, from South Africa or India, how they still value very much this traditional, if we now we call traditional way of psychoanalysis. And it helped me, and but it was also raised difficult questions, and I could convey them to the board. And that very, I would say this link function helped me to stand more firm in board discussions. And I come from Norway, and it's big geographical distances. So in a way, it would be important to, now it's this process about teleanalysis also in Norway. But I did vote against in July because I felt I needed to represent these voices, which was in a way ignored in this picture of diversity, and who asked to maintain high quality training in a room and not eliminate difference between exception and the rule. So many questions, why was this rationale and why it was so important, becomes unanswered. But someone from my link society said that it's like we are fighting the smoke but ignoring the fire that could come up again in different form. And I don't know, will I be re-elected or not, but I would wish that new board is aware of the fire, not only smoke. And I hope revelation of procedure of changes will happen in next 4 years and will not be postponed. And I also support this, that would be the question also later, to try to unite societies in training standards.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Ellen?
Thank you, Arthur. Hello, everyone. It was a time of light. It was a time of darkness. Dickens wrote in his opening lines of A Tale of Two Cities.
Mm-hmm.
The IPA, guardian of Freud's legacy, must be a light in these dark times. With our scientific knowledge grounded in ethics and psychoanalytic methodology, psychic truth, research, and clinical experience must continue to be the foundation of our IPA world. In recent years, my involvement with the IPA has been both in my role as co-chair for the Applicant Societies Committee, the ING Committee, which evaluates applications from large non-IPA groups wishing to become provisional societies and bypass the study group phase. This committee has been at the center of recent IPA controversies, and our primary goal has been to develop a platform where existing component societies who strongly value their local analytic cultures, the development committees, and the applicant group can dialogue and debate. Also, in conjunction with the chair of the ING, an interregional research group was initiated, exploring the way in which IPA psychoanalysis is transmitted during the study group process. This research group should continue. For the past 6 years, I have been director of the Paris Psychoanalytic Institute. The Institute and the Society function within the French model. The recognition of the three models exemplifies the kind of creativity that can facilitate the resolution of divergent perspectives within the IPA. Maintaining unity and preserving cooperative collaboration while respecting differences is of utmost importance. My personal experience in and within the French model, along with my extensive experience working with colleagues and candidates from Eitingen model societies, allows me to bring a perspective that is complementary and necessary, I believe, to the major issues and decisions before the IPA today. I am a core member of the EPF Forum Exploring Training Process and Practice, a research group exploring the impact of the institution on the supervisory process. I co-authored a paper about our research that was presented at the 2023 EPF Forum on Education. As a member of the editorial committees of two major psychoanalytic journals, currently the International Journal of Psychoanalysis and previously the Revue Française de Psychanalyse, I have learned to read, listen, and think about concepts that may be unfamiliar and at times quite different than from my own. These experiences have taught me to listen and pay attention to the issues at hand, whether theoretical or institutional. I sincerely wish to learn about and understand how the board functions. I believe that the IPA should be the guardian of the continuity of Freud's and the post-Freudian's analytic research, that the methodology and ethics which define our work should be transmitted and respected, that the International Psychoanalytic Association must be both deeply respectful of regional cultures and traditions and open to new colleagues and new ideas, that we must be in continuous exchange with the changing world, other disciplines, politics, etc. If you honor me with your vote, I will bring to the Board of Representatives my experience from within my society, as well as my multicultural experience in working internationally. It is with these commitments and experience that I ask you to support my candidacy as European representative to the IPA board. Thank you.
Yeah, good. I think we have Jasminka here by video.
Yes, let me share.
Okay.
Dear colleagues, I'm very honored to participate in this webinar. You are listening this recording as I am on the way to Sofia for a working visit to Bulgarian Psychoanalytical Society as part of their IPA-ING Liaison Committee. This visit was arranged many months ago, and this is the only way for me to be present with you now. Working for the IPA-ING, International New Groups Committee, enabled me to witness the great progress of this society and also the vital function of the IPA in this process, fostering the development of newer society. More broadly, I would say that belonging to the IPA is an enormous privilege today. We live in a world of growing divisions, wars, and uncertainties, but it is also a world of growing solidarity and a genuine move towards truth and change. And the IPA, with its members, can contribute to this. Throughout the previous years, a fascinating number of projects has been initiated, promoting interrelatedness, various paths of intervention in crisis, mutual help, and understanding. But more than that, raising awareness about global and group processes. In these times, it is of crucial importance to preserve analytic thinking and listening. Here, I would emphasize the significance of recognizing that scientific base is our fundamental inheritance. Metapsychological and clinical approaches are essential, together and in parallel with responses to social issues. Another main area is thinking about the regulatory role of the IPA and standards of trainings, for which the IPA is the world's primary regulatory body. We know for recent revision of the procedural code, now taking into account a presence of the online sessions in training. If elected, I would support continuation of thinking about that, together with systematic and detailed research into this area. Connected with this fact is the matter that IPA is a membership organization, a global one, including the three and now a fourth region. Besides the immense opportunity we have as an international collective, there is the inevitable question about differences and representation, about relations of members and societies and of regions and association. How can we promote respect for differences and work to promote also and preserve the unity of association? How can members be included and at the same time enable better representation for societies and for regions? Dear colleagues, for more than 10 years, I have worked for my society, for the EPF, and for the IPA. I learned about these organizations from the inside. I know about joy of mutual and international connectedness and exchanges, but also the difficulties which our organizations could face, to which a recently published book, Dynamics of Psychoanalytic Institutions, is devoted, of which I am editor and co-author. I am ready and prepared to continue with this kind of engagement and to use my experience for further advances of the IPA and all of us, its members. Thank you for your attention.
Good. Okay. Great that we were able to do that. Martin.
Okay. Dear colleagues, it is still a little bit strange for me to speak for about 70 colleagues whom I cannot see. But thank you very much for your interest and for the possibility to introduce myself. I would like to go on working on the goals of the IPA, which is set in the mission statement. This means to specify foundational training principles for psychoanalysts, to develop and accredit psychoanalytical societies, to establish ethical standards for its members, and to strengthen the vitality of research and transmission of psychoanalysis. The IPA is committed to understanding the impact of the contemporary world on individuals, groups, and communities, and to intervening psychoanalytically in social issues. One of the central conflicts in the IPA today is the question of the extent to which remote analysis is acceptable in training. The current board has decided to make changes of the procedural code. Nevertheless, I'm concerned about the further development. My opinion is that the personal encounter between analyst and patient is essential and cannot be replaced by digital media. The psychoanalytic relationship does not consist solely of an exchange of words that can be transmitted as information, but rather lives in a bodily togetherness with gestures, delays, sound, movement, and so on. Processes of change are based on an interpersonal encounter with the physical presence of two persons and the analysis of unconscious, multimodal transference and countertransference processes. For this reason, and for reasons of data security and the protection of confidentiality, I would like to strengthen the position of the majority of European societies and advocate that the use of digital media in training analysis, in training cases and in supervision is permitted in exceptional cases only. Societies that adhere to in-person training structures should have a permanent place in the IPA, which means, for example, indicated in the list of institutes. A second point, the implementation of psychoanalysis in the scientific world must be consolidated. This includes the promotion of individual clinical case research, as well as concept development and transdisciplinary multimodal research. The third point, psychoanalysis should reach people from disadvantaged social backgrounds worldwide. With a view of global developments, the establishment of a fourth IPA region should be promoted further. The American Psychoanalytic Association should become a component society. However, it should be considered that under the procedure now described, the APSA will continue to train psychoanalysts who have never met a patient in person. After 5 years, this customary right will hardly be revoked. A side effect of this inclusion of the APSA as a component society will be a higher acceptance of online training. A fourth point, to implement the fourth region in the IPA, a task force on representation and rotation will be established. The structural reform of the IPA should follow the principles of representative democracy. The member societies should be anchored in the structure of the IPA in accordance with their important tasks. The society do the training on behalf of the IPA and collect the dues, but they are not represented in the constitution until now. The European presidents asking for recognition of their in-person training should be represented in this task force on representation and rotation. I would like to continue to work closely with my link societies and all European members, representing the European position on the board. And I think this is very necessary. I would like to ask for your trust so that I can work towards these goals within the IPA. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Joe.
Okay. I'm just going to share the screen briefly. You see that?
Yes, we can.
Thank you all, and it's a real honor to be here today. My life has been transformed by psychoanalysis, and I want to share that with others. As indicated in the introduction, I trained as a psychoanalyst with the British Psychoanalytic Association, the BPA, where I served on the board as chair of outreach between 2019 and 2021. I am also a member of the Australian Psychoanalytical Society, APAS. Whilst chair of outreach, I was actively promoting the society during the global pandemic. With my BPA colleague, Catherine McKissick, I led on creating an online introductory lecture series, discussion, and continued with the summer school. And I founded the BPA Bulletin in 2011 and founded the BPA Film Society in 2011. I did a number of documentary interviews with analysts and artists like Neville Symington, Mark Rylance and Wendy Cope in an effort to communicate the benefits of psychoanalysis to newcomers. And I found these people surprisingly willing and eager to share their experience of how much psychoanalysis had helped them. I'm also the founder and director of a clinical practice in London for the past 15 years. How do we keep psychoanalysis relevant in today's world? Outreach is very important to me, but I also have a track record of innovating in clinical practice. And for several years, I've explored a psychoanalytic approach to treating eating disorders, which I'm very interested in pursuing further in the IPA. I've presented my ideas in BPA lectures, and I also do remote supervision with clinicians who are part of the Australian and New Zealand Academy of Eating Disorders, ANZIAD, in Australia. I understand the challenge facing candidates. As a working mum who lives through the pandemic and cost of living crisis with a toddler, I feel I'm in a good position to understand the financial and emotional demands faced by many new candidates in the modern world, having trained with a full-time career in the film industry at the time. Psychoanalytic training should remain rigorous yet accessible, equipping candidates with what is required with the conditions of our time. Further enabling international collaboration to address these challenging issues and finding the best balance that maintains the rigor and essence of psychoanalysis whilst making it accessible to people. If elected, I will work to attract and support candidates from non-clinical and diverse backgrounds. I will bring my experience and passion to the IPA board. As an Australian who has lived in London for nearly 30 years and belonged to 2 societies in Europe and Australia, I have an international lens and will act as a global advocate as best I can of psychoanalysis. I am well placed to understand the range of differing concerns and challenges facing psychoanalysis in Europe and the various regions and work collaboratively. I will continue to innovate with initiatives like the BPA Film Society to further increase the awareness and outreach and global advocacy for psychoanalysis. My personal passion, film. I bridge the 2 worlds of film and psychoanalysis, and as mentioned, founded the BPA Film Society, drawing on my career in the film industry. And for the past 15 years, I have run screenings at the Hampstead Everyman in London, where I choose a film and bring together a panel of psychoanalysts, sometimes producers and directors, including the late Nicholas Roeg. My film screenings have been extremely popular and act as an outreach tool to promote psychoanalysis to a wider public, and I hope to continue this in the IPA if elected. I also produced a series of film interviews with analysts such as the late Neville Symington, and this film opened his memorial conference in Sydney in 2022. I have energy and passion to devote, and I have a track record of doing and am not capable of standing back, and I do like to get involved, whether that's founding a film society or setting up and running a practice in central London. If elected, I will channel my energy and interest towards the IPA, and I am a global advocate for psychoanalysis. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, that was really, I have to say to all of you, those were wonderful presentations, and it said a lot about you. I think, I suspect it's a grateful audience. I mean, it's late because, you know, there's a number of us, we all had to speak, but I think let's try and we'll stretch the time. Hopefully people can stay. We'll at least try to do one of the questions I'll actually put two together, and then we'll go back and in order and just try to be briefly present some ideas. I mean, you've already done really well to convey who and what you are. If elected, this is the question, what steps would you take to ensure that you're kept adequately informed about the views of European members? And how far would you feel obligated to represent their views if they are different from your own personal views? And I think maybe you could add to that a little bit about the link function and how that fits. So both questions address the issue of the role, the interesting kind of balance between self and the people you represent, and also understanding how the link function it impacts that role. Athanasius, would you like to?
Well, I think that I would like to be a bridge of communication between the European Societies and the IPA board, but not only the societies, but also the European members, because as we know, we're members of the IPA, all of us. And I will try to get informed as much as possible by creating online meetings or visiting the link societies and speak with the members, and to get better to know what their reflections, not only the majority, not only the opinion of the majority, but also the opinion of the minorities. And on the other hand, I'll have to know well what are the reflections and the decisions of the IPA in order to be able to transmit them to the members. I will never impose my personal views because this is not in my role. My role is to present the opinions of the others, and I will try to keep that in the right way. Anyway, all of us will have the possibility to express our personal views in the societies that we belong or in the other institutions. That's all.
Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, Bernard.
Very quickly, I have had some experience of the link from the other side, if you like. I find it very, very helpful. I would undertake to prepare a regular, to be determined, a regular little newsletter for my link societies, if elected. We could meet electronically regularly to be determined. It has to be acknowledged that the IPA is the oddest kind of democratic organization with quite peculiar structures. But I think I would find through discussion, through listening, as well as bringing reports from the board, that if my priorities, and you've heard some of them, particularly about in-person training experiences, were seriously at odds with the consensus in my link group, then I would have to reconsider my position. So I have to respect a judgment about democratic views. It's not without its difficulties, but I do think that I could maintain a successful flow of communication backwards and forwards between the board and especially with the handful of link societies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Gabriella.
Yes, thank you. Very quickly. I think that the first question has to be with the function of European representative, which is a very difficult task. I would like to stress that because we are educated in Europe, and we share many European positions. But at the same time, we work in an international membership organization whose mission is to maintain, at the same time, on one side, high standards, but at the same time to promoting psychoanalysis in the world. So the problem is that we need to, as I said before, to develop a third eye in confronting with our society when we understand that there are jeopardized positions about, for example, the procedural code variation, no? The procedural code on trading variation. We have to, it's very difficult to overcome the problem of conflicts and to have this position, you know. But I think that this is our very difficult task in the IPA as EuroRec. About the link function, I would say that the link function, in my opinion, is very useful. It should be intensified. And probably, as Callan said, probably we have to find more and more instruments to communicate with link president, and probably to try and be not so different between the different links, to find some setting, you know, about the communication with link function, not a rigid one, but a creative one. But I think that should be rethought, this function in that direction, because sometimes there are overlappings or sometimes difficulties, because we have to be very realistic. Time is not, you know, I would like to visit societies, but in fact, it's very difficult to have time to do it. So we have to rethought this function, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Okay, Eva.
I will answer together to the first and third question. The function of the Euro representative is multi-dimensional. The first is the link person, and as we know, each person has a SIG society under her care. And it is very important to be in touch, in a real touch with these societies, with the presidents. I mean online meetings, but also maybe visiting the societies. And the Euro representatives the task is to pass on the information between the IPA and the societies. He has to be this link person to the both sides, and it is very important to be in a real contact and permanent contact, if possible. Second is the representation, and as I understand it, it is very important to stay in touch and representing the majority of European psychoanalysts to the IPA officers and colleagues from other regions. And I think that IPA Euro representatives should attend meetings and discussion at the council meeting to be prepared to this. These meetings and exchange are very important, and EPF offers twice a year such a meeting. And I think it is very, very important, and to explain and to be a kind of exchange. I agree that it is a very difficult function, because on one hand you are connected with you are an IPA board, but on the other hand you represent European society, European members. I agree it is not easy task. And it is obvious to me that in holding a particular function, any function, I do not represent myself, it was the question. But I put it first to represent the point of view of the community of European psychoanalysts, even if it is a different point of view from my own. So I understand that being in the position, it is really a kind of responsibility, and I should represent European psychoanalysts, not my own opinion, of course. Thank you very much.
Louise.
Yeah, in terms of question one, well, with thousands of members, I think it will be important to implement a structured approach to remain informed about members' views. And I think the key steps included meeting personally with presidents of the societies represented at the EPF meetings, maintaining monthly email communication with these presidents, convening Zoom meetings where the representative and presidents have a forum in which to share information and exchange views, and actively encouraging the presidents to elicit feedback from their members and to share updates with the representative. I recognise that these steps focus on engagement with presidents and are part of the representative's important link function. It's efficient to deal with the presidents and important to respect the protocols of the link role, but I think it's also helpful to hear directly from members. I would always welcome and value direct input by email from members, but subject to further consideration and consultation with presidents, perhaps we could explore hosting forums of this kind where members have the opportunity to directly share views and ask questions. I could certainly build upon my own experience in leadership positions within my own society, where, for example, we convene town hall sessions hosted by the president, which I could join as your representative to hear firsthand about your views and concerns. I have no hesitation confirming that I would sit on the board as your representative, and therefore I'm bound to represent your views rather than my own personal views. However, members may not be unanimous on complex issues and will not share one opinion, which can be easily summarised or conveyed by the representative. It will be vital, therefore, that the representative can bring the judgment and nuance needed to share the plurality of those views to the board while still acting as an effective advocate for Europe. Once again, the representative's personal views will not take precedence, but the representative's personal qualities and skills would be critical to ensuring that Europe's voice is heard and respected. Briefly, in response to question 3, I've reviewed the Charter and am conscious of the list of responsibilities outlined for the link function. I see the key task as being to serve as a conduit, to explain policy and encourage debate, to encourage constituent organisations to be involved, to be an ambassador of the board. The board is elected by the membership and is accountable to the membership. And so the representative also has an important role to play as the voice of the membership on the board's debates and decisions. In other words, the representative serves as a two-way channel or link from the board to the membership and from the membership to the board. In my experience, this reflects the essence of leadership. The representative must find the balance between leading the membership, sharing the guidance and direction coming from the board, and following the membership, helping the board make decisions which reflect the views of the membership. As Euro Rep, I would take very seriously my role as link person and would actively canvass the opinions of the members of all the societies for whom I represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Barty.
Well, it is a difficult question and difficult role, as all my colleagues have just mentioned. But quickly, I would just mention 2-3 things. One is that growing up in India's immense cultural, geopolitical, and socio-economic diversity has taught me to hold multiple perspectives, even contradictory ones, and view them from different vantage points. As a board member, it's very clear to me that my role is to represent both EPF and IPA. My personal views can act as a lens, but that is my perspective. My commitment is to reflect the collective voices, even multiple voices from the community, from my community that I'm representing. That is very, very clear. Similarly, the link function and establishing links and a regular channels, that is very, very important, and that has to be very concrete. We, of course, can have in-person visits, but it is not only important to establish the channels, but also to follow up and continue with them. Continue to understand the emotions, the thinkings of the members. Of course, it goes through the president of the society, but I hope to have regular Zoom meetings, exchanges through emails, and other kind of activities, other kind of dialogues with the key persons in the EPF community and also with the member societies to have broader engagements on weekly basis and also on monthly basis. And similarly, although I just have heard and read about the link function, but I have found it very, very important. And I found that linking again is not only just ticking the box of just meeting a person, but meeting with the emotions and thinking of the entire membership societies and the community. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I want to say two things. The first one is that in my experience, the board now made a real effort to be in contact with the members. Around the question of the training, we organized webinars, and all the members had the possibility to write and to express themselves. And I think that we have to reinforce this dialogue between the board, the president, and the members. And I think that is to be a link, to be a European representative, is to reinforce again and again the possibilities of the members and the president to express themselves. It is the first point. Second point, maybe you know, you don't know, because I want to say something. I want that maybe you know that a number of presidents in Europe sent to the board letters, and the last letter around the question, of course, of the procedural code on training. And the board respects these positions and these opinions. And I would like to say that in our last board meeting, we invited two presidents, two European presidents, and Jan, the president of the Federation European. And I want to say that it is an unfinished business. There is a process now, and again, we respect and we listen to the members and to the European presidents around the question of the training. There is two more difficulties. It is, I am not sure that all the members of all the European societies, they think the same. Inside the European societies, there are different opinions, okay? And when it is clear, when the general opinion, but sometimes it's not clear, and only one word, I am completely agree with Gabriela, Des, and Martin, that it is to be in a difficult position to be on the board, in one side, European representative, and to think about the global psychoanalysts around the world.
Thank you. Good. Yes.
IPA is a membership organization, so in my opinion, as all others, link function I find most crucial function. It's in a way like it can help to feel the pulse of IPA if you are open for communication. And in formulation, it stands that share the issues and concerns raised. And then we are back again to what happened before procedural code, that what board does with these concerns and issues which is shared, because it can strengthen the bond or can also make members to feel more distant. So I think it's yeah, so we are back again about listening and hearing. And I believe the role of representative is to present, of course, members, not yourself. And I actually think that if one self-vision becomes more important, then I think it's a bit misuse of power in this position. And I think, like someone said, we do it very differently. And it was a moment when I thought maybe I do it very wrong, but then I realized maybe that's my main mission in this board is to have this link function. And I try to do it in a way how I find it right, and I will try to continue in that way, and to be open channel with my societies. And I also am open to any member who is approaching, because conversation and every opinion counts, but sometimes they don't know who is their link. So I would suggest that maybe on the website, when it's governance, it could be written that you are linked for these and these societies, so they know to whom approach. Yeah.
Thank you. Good. Do we have a video from Jasminka for one of that question, first question?
Yes, let me share.
Okay.
This question is very important, reflecting very well the complexity of the IPA as an organization. It is very important that European representatives are informed about the views of European members in order to represent them, even though their personal opinion might be different from that. And I would feel completely bound by this principle. Regarding being informed, there are many already established ways of this. First, EPF Council meetings twice in a year, with place for meeting between IPA European representatives and EPF presidents for working and discussing various matters together. Then there is also pre-Congress day of meetings of with European presidents, and also equally important link function of the IPA European representatives. In these dynamic times, it might be not enough, and I would work to support that any communication or documents received by European presidents, and in this way from IPA members, reach immediately IPA board and be taken into account and discussed seriously.
Okay. Martin.
And Ellen.
I think you forgot me.
Did I miss one? Oh, did I? Ellen? Oh, sorry. Okay, Ellen. Sorry, Ellen. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I think there are two issues here. One is a question of ethics, and the other is a question of structure. Ethically, there's no question. We are bound to represent the opinions of the people that we have been elected to represent, whether or not they are the same as our opinions. Nothing obviously prevents us from discussing those points of view. Secondly, the link function is part of a structure that the IPA has created, the board and the IPA has created, to have a structure that permits exchanges from within different levels. However, there's something very interesting because the IPA is an organization of members. The EPF is an organization of societies. And there's an overlap, there's both an overlap and a conflict because the presidents, of course, represent their societies, but they are individuals who represent, in some cases, as in my society, hundreds of people who always have diverging opinions. So I won't repeat what has been said about the link function because I think we all agree that it's a bridge between the board and the societies. And I would be happy to participate in that.
Yeah, all right, that's great. Now, Mark.
Yes, I feel obliged to those who have voted to me. I have to be a European representative. That is what the name says. And there's a question in the chat by Sergio Nick. He asked, is there a sole European position on online training? Of course, there is not a sole or unique position, but the vast majority of Europeans and European presidents have expressed their great concerns about the Taylor analysis. And Sergio, this is the same like in Latin America. There's not a sole position, but the majority position. And this is what we have to represent in my mind, like other regions do. For example, tomorrow I have an online meeting with my link persons to get to know their opinions about the current issues of the IPA, that I can represent it in the board. This is the way we exchange to each other. And maybe I can say already something to the second question, because I think I have said I already answered the second question in my statement. So I apologize when I have to leave the session. I cannot stay till the end. Sorry for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Joan.
Okay. In answer to the first question, I would canvass colleagues with differing opinions and speak to the various presidents of the European societies, attend relevant meetings, and that way I could keep abreast with the current issues such as person versus remote analysis and issues surrounding intensity, accessibility and affordability. I also think as part of the role of the board member would be to represent the members of the European societies and to navigate some of these difficult and sometimes contentious issues. And to navigate this issue, working together to find a framing that minimizes splitting and fragmentation. And I see the linking function as being the liaison and working both ways, representing the European societies' views to the IPA and vice versa, and to ensure that the European view is heard by the IPA and to keep Europe abreast of the wider international issues, challenges, and solutions we may face. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Good. Okay, I didn't miss anybody, but that's good. That's good. Well, I think we're over time, but it was very good. You know, I mean, as I sort of took it in, I thought, yeah, you're all relating to a European reality and your constituency. But what I sensed in all of you was you're all very capable. I could see you're listening to diversity of voices, you know, and you're very aware of what's happening in the IPA and how analysts around the world are attempting to adjust to all these different socio-cultural, economic, political, technological changes. I just felt that if you all formed the IPA board, I think the IPA would be in good hands. You know, I think you really do a credit. It's a credit to European psychoanalysis. I think it's a credit to yourselves as individuals. I was really just very, very pleased to be part of this, and I want to thank you all, and I want to thank the audience who's probably didn't know quite that they'd be here almost 2 hours. But, all right, okay. So on that, we can all say goodbye, and again, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.